Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Otta. I'm the founder and CEO of Three Beats Consulting. And while we do corporate work, corporate trainings, and leadership development work, we also work individually with professionals, whether they're entrepreneurs or not, in setting their fees, their salaries, negotiating, pricing, and all of that. So, whether you have a service based business or a product based business, this information is going to serve you really, really deeply. So, given the landscape of 2025 and all of the uncertainty that's been taking place, a lot of people have been struggling to figure out a price point that works well for their consumers and their clients. And while I think it's important for us to think about what the market value is and to do benchmark assessments with other individuals in your industry and businesses to assess kind of what the landscape looks like, it's also really important for you to get really clear in what your client journey is, the step-by-step process that they go through from interest to conversion. But it's also important for you to keep in mind the client experience, which is what is their emotional experience through that journey that they're taking to be able to work with you. And I also want you to think about these very specific prompts when it comes to setting your fees, because no one is ever buying a product. No one is ever buying your services. They are buying the outcome that they perceive will happen with that transaction. So if they hire you for a service, they're anticipating that the results of that will be, let's say, higher self-esteem or more enjoyment, more adventure, more love, whatever it is. And same thing with the product as well. People never buy a product, they're buying the brand, they're buying the experience that you're creating for them through that piece, right? So here's what I want you to consider, and I want you to write this down. Number one, how many years have you invested in being an expert in your area? And I really want you to think big picture because let's say you're selling handbags, right? It's not just the amount of years that you've been selling handbags, but when did that research and interest start? Maybe you were a kid, maybe you got books from the library, right? And looked at Vogue magazine and that's all you were consumed by and thinking about, right? You want to think about the true nature of what you're bringing to this and how many years you've been immersed in whatever the product or the service is. Okay. And that's really important to think about. Number two, you also want to think about how much have you financially contributed to your education, to your learning, to courses, to really everything that's gone into where you are today and how you were prepared to be able to provide this service or provide this product. So, for example, as a coach and a consultant, this started many, many years ago. I would say even in like high school. So I had mentorship, I had leadership experience, I was getting feedback regularly. And so when I think about the whole of experience, you really want to think about too how many courses have you taken? How many conferences have you gone to? How much coaching have you invested in yourself? How many years of education, right? What are the certifications? You want to think about that very, very broadly so that you can really gather as much accurate data as possible about what has set you up, both the years you've invested and the finances you've invested. Number three, you're also going to want to think about time in your specific industry. So, leadership, even though that's not quite really an industry, right? I would say that there's well over 25 years of leadership experience I've had. So, if you're in a product based business or a service based business, you're going to want to think about, right, how long have you actually had your toe in the water of that? Number four, you want to think about what have all your wins been? What have all your failures been? What have all your learnings been? And what have your experiences through that been? The reason why, again, is because people are buying a story, they are buying a brand, they want to be connected to the humanity beyond whatever it is that they're actually purchasing. And so, for you to be really familiar with your own narrative and your own stories and examples, that is going to help drive your storytelling. It's going to help as you're talking about your brand values, mission, vision, and values, and your why. Really important. You're also going to want to think about how many hours you've actually spent immersed in the content of what you're creating. So, I had someone recently realize that she had spent over 25 years in her particular industry. She had invested over $100,000 in her education in that industry, and that she had spent well over, I think, 250,000 hours immersed in the work that she was doing, whether that was her learning, her being a recipient of mentorship, her actively in the field doing the work. So, those are all going to be really helpful for you to think about. You're also going to want to think about how many times have you had a conversation about a potential sale? Because it's not always getting to the yes, but it's looking at what is your pipeline, how are sales going, what's your conversion rate. If I want to enroll someone into a group of 10 people, I'm probably going to be having about 60 conversations or 60 invitations, right? That's just my particular conversion rate. And it's not all for naught, because every time you have a touch point with someone, it's another opportunity to build trust. Again, whether it's a service or a product, you are making an impression, and that person, you want a higher likelihood of that person coming back. So give them a good experience, regardless of what the outcome is, and just help people get to the next step, right? Eventually, conversion will happen. And then lastly, you want to think about the extraordinary and meaningful results that people have experienced as a result of working with you and or your product. What are those client stories? What are those results? What is that data? And it could be something that's qualitative or quantitative. Qualitative meaning more story in nature, more, hey, people generally feel a sense of more confidence. They generally feel a sense of more creativity when they work with me. It also might be, hey, typically when people work with me, they see an increase of this percentage on average. So you want to think also about how you're presenting your qualitative and quantitative data. With that, you will start to be able to see how important your worth really is. No one is actually paying you for the services or the products. They're paying for the outcome they perceive they will have as a result of the transaction. Keep that in mind. Do a rigorous inventory, because we're never just starting out. And even if you are a seasoned business owner, this is an opportunity to come back to brass tacks. Let me get back in touch with all of the rich experience and all that's led me here today, because that is what you bring to any client, any products that you're presenting. And so come back to that often. Fees are arbitrary anyway, right? Something could be $5, something could be 50, something could be 5,000 or 50,000. The price is what you say it is based on the data, right? Based on the background of what brought you here, and you get to decide that. So I hope that is helpful. I would love to hear more. If you email me at sarah@3beatsconsulting.com, I will be there to answer questions and to field any ideas that you might have around this. I want you to succeed more than ever, not just for the end of 2025, but 2026 and beyond.